Evolution is a strategy card game for 2 to 6 players where players adapt a species to current situations in order to consume the most food. Each game is unique, and players must be quick to act on change in order to outcompete the competition. At the start of the game, the board should look like this. Before the game begins, shuffle the stack of trait cards. Each player begins with one species, with the markers for body size and population in their lowest position. Each player also receives 4 trait cards, face down, plus an additional card for every species they own. At the beginning of the game, each player should have 5 total trait cards. This random dealing of traits could be viewed as an occurrence of mutations, symbolized by us assigning these traits to our species over genetic lifetimes, portrayed here by each full turn of play. Each species will look at their hand and pick a trait card to discard to add food to the watering hole and to change the climate. To make this decision, the player will look at the icons in the bottom right hand of the cards. The leaf with the number in the middle denotes how much food that card will add in the next feeding round. Once the players have selected their card, they place it face down on the center of the board, also called the watering hole. After everyone has picked their food card, players take turns applying traits to their species, starting with the player with the first player token going first, and then moving clockwise around the table. Players can use their trait cards in 3 ways. First, trait cards can be applied directly to the player's species. Simply place the trait face down close to or underneath a species board to denote you wish to apply the trait to that species. A species cannot have duplicate traits or more than 4 traits. Secondly, a player may discard a card to gain new species. There is no limit to how many species a player can own. However, a new species cannot be placed in between species, only to the left or right of your current species chain. Lastly, a player may discard cards to increase the species body size or population. The tokens on the species board cannot exceed 6, but a species body size or population can effectively exceed 6 with the use of some traits. Any of these options can be done in any order and as many times as a player desires. Players may also discard a trait directly from their species board if a player no longer wants or needs that trait. After everyone has a chance to play their cards, everyone reveals what trait cards they applied. Players picking and applying traits can be analogous to natural selection. Though natural selection isn't a literal entity making conscious decisions about which traits should appear in which species, favorable traits tend to carry on, and traits that would hinder the survival of a species are removed as individuals with those traits die out, similar to how a player adds favorable traits and discards or removes traits that don't help their species. It is important to remember that a player's species board represents the entire species and not just an individual from those species. So a player changing traits on a species is not a single organism suddenly changing its morphology, but rather the species as a whole adapting to the current environment. Once everyone has revealed their traits, turn the cards in the watering hole face up. The first thing you'll want to do with these cards is adjust the climate. If there are more suns than snowflakes on the card, move the climate token 1 zone warmer. If there are more snowflakes than suns, move the token 1 zone colder. If there are the same number of suns and snowflakes, the climate remains unchanged for that round. Each climate zone imparts effects on the environment. The leaf on the zone is how much food is affected during that round. Adjust food as appropriate. The elephant with numbers on it indicates what body sizes are affected by that climate, and the number of snowflakes or suns indicates how much population is lost for those body sizes. Body sizes being affected by temperature is a direct reference to Bergman's rule. Small organisms having a big surface area to volume ratio causes them to lose heat faster. This makes them suitable for warmer climates, but they don't fare too well in the cold ones as they lose body heat too quickly. On the other hand, large organisms have a small surface area to volume ratio, meaning their bodies hold heat far more efficiently, making them suited for colder climates, but not for warm ones. Some traits help mediate the effects of climate, so players should use those whenever possible. After adjusting the climate, refer to the cards in the watering hole. Add up the number on the leaves of the cards and add or remove that much food to the watering hole as necessary. Starting with the first player, players take turns going clockwise around the table, taking 1 food from the watering hole and placing it in the designated spots on their species boards. A species can no longer feed once all the food on the board is equal to its population. The feeding round is over when all species can no longer feed, either from being full or the lack of food, and the players move the food tokens from their species board into their score bags. Any species with food less than their population at the end of the feeding round reduces their population equal to that amount of food. Players need to keep in mind how much species and how much of each species they own compared to the amount of food in the environment because of carrying capacity. If there's not enough food for all the species, some will die off. There is a careful balance between species abundance and food abundance that needs to be maintained to maximize the amount of food and therefore points that you can get. Repeat all of these steps for the following rounds of the game. The game is over once there is no more trait cards in the draw pile. Players then tally up their points equal to the amount of food in their bags, the number of traits on their species, and the total population across their species. The player with the most points accumulated has the best evolved species that dealt the best with the ecological relationships of their times.